What is a Space Marine? You may have played 40k for a while now, but you may have never heard of a Space Marine. Well, they're a bit like a very masculinized battle sister, or some sort of loyalist version of a Chaos Space Marine. Oh, when you play Genestealer Cult and Battle Sisters, the idea that there's a lot of people that never heard of you. I just made myself sad. Okay, never mind. Scouts. Space Marine Scouts, they're new, they're in Scout armor. They are very much a Firstborn unit. When the Primaris Marines were introduced into the system, they didn't go through the Scout training, then the Devastator training, then the Assault training, all the way through to whichever company they ended up in. They were given a gun, trained how to use that gun, and sent off into battle because they were needed in desperate times. That being, the galaxy had a bit of a whoopsie. The Firstborn and the Primaris having separate datasheets is coming to an end. They will get a merge sheet for their characters. So an Apothecary and a Primaris Apothecary are going to use the same datasheet. A Lieutenant and a Primaris Lieutenant are the same, but this doesn't mean that each chapter has picked one or the other to be taken out and shot. Terminator is a Firstborn, but some of them are Primaris, especially for Primaris only chapters that have access to Terminator armor, so we know that either kind of Space Marine can be in Terminator armor. Now I'm going to explain to you why you can have an all Firstborn army, but in Primaris armor. The Stern Guard, which were Firstborn and now are appearing in the Tacticus armor, but still have the options for their heads to have the Mark 6 and the Mark 7 helmets, you may want to have your chapter which has Firstborn only lore, such as the Flesh Terrors, who very much focused on just being Firstborn and only recently have allowed Primaris models to be inducted into their ranks. This is how any Firstborn chapter can use the new Primaris models. Part of the reason you want to do that could be because the Tactical Marines of this scale are actually pretty small compared to the scale of the new models now being produced. They don't have the imposing look you hoped for, and you don't really want to buy the 20 models with the no special and heavy weapons for £60 to get the Mark 6 armor, a kit currently available at a discounted price from Firestorm Games if you're in the UK or Europe, or from Gap Games if you're in Australia or New Zealand. And for Gap Games, it's a very fun one because it's /vampire. Isn't it nice that they let me have my own particular affiliate link? Such fun! But now, I will square away your worries and explain how it is possible to use these Primaris models without breaking your Firstborn lore. Size is usually given as a reason why not. Tacticus armor was designed for the Primaris Marines because of their different height, so surely Firstborn, a slightly smaller statured Marine, wouldn't fit. But unlike the set cast models that are all exactly the same height, so you can use one arm on the sprue for any of the models that come in the box, the height of living people actually differs. And there isn't that much difference between them because the shoulder pads of the Mark 10 and tactical armor are exactly the same size. Space Marines are between 7 and 8 feet tall. For context for people that don't use feet, the average British male is 5'9". But I'm assuming that you all use tape measures in feet and inches when playing 40k. If not, let me know, so I can be concerned. So very much a shout out to my Short King Space Marines at 7 foot. And while the books and sources may vary, Games Workshop isn't exactly consistent in itself, and we have to account for gravity on different worlds that humanity is recruited from, but on average, the Primaris Marines are between 7 foot 6 inches and 8 foot 6 inches. There's quite a bit of overlap there. You could certainly get a lot of Firstborn fitting the height requirements of the Tacticus armor. Also, power armor is not a one-size-fits-all jumpsuit. The armor is matched to the Marine's height or changed to fit the owner. You've seen the effort that goes into putting on the armor. They are not going to skimp on the tailoring. Armor can be made to fit, and if a Primaris and a Firstborn Marine can fit Terminator armor, then it shouldn't be a problem for a Firstborn to fit into the bigger Mark 10 armor. Part of the desperation of the 41st millennium was that Tactical Marines had a lot of different marks of armor, mostly Mark 7 with some Mark 8, Mark 6 and Mark 4, so when a Space Marine needed armor, or a warrior's armor was damaged, they had to check the storeroom to see what was available in their size. It might be some Mark 6 trousers, a Mark 3 helmet, and a Mark 4 chest piece. Thankfully, all compatible. We know it's all compatible because the Space Wolf 13th Company made extensive use of traitor armor while they were stuck in the Eye of Terror. Another reason for the extermination of these creatures beyond them being filthy mutant werewolves. So that is only what Marines do when they don't have the time or resources to adapt armor to a person. They just take what you can. So it should be possible to reduce the Mark 10 armor down to all but the smallest of Marines. Then, all that's different is the armament. Because Gilliman came back and decided the Codex Astartes on mixed weapons was stupid, and he went back to the 30k style like we're some sort of Eldar aspect warriors in the Space Marine armies, with each unit specializing to have only one weapon. So it is entirely possible that Tactical Marines would learn or adapt to this new, old style of thinking and have swapped their bolt guns for bolt rifles. What if you were an all-Primaris chapter? Why would you have Firstborn style models like the Scouts? Well, when Gilliman first discovered the Primaris Marines, do you think they all had a decade of Scout training? No, they were just given the organs, put straight into Mark 10 armour, here's a bolt gun, now called a bolt rifle, you need to wait 2 editions until you get a fire selector button, now go and kill some heretics, me lad. Newer Primaris Marines would go through the Scout training and they would use older armour sets if they were short of the various new Mark 10 armour. There was the much debated Black Templar's Castellan. It's based very obviously on some John Blanche artwork from 3rd edition, which has an officer of some sort in a variation of Mark 7 tactical armour, with an obvious Mark 7 helmet. A Firstborn set of armour on a historically Firstborn model. However, the model in 9th edition had the Primaris keyword, and in 10th edition, it's considered to be in Tacticus armour. And at the start of 10th edition, it could only join other units in the Primaris released Tacticus armour. And size again, if you look at the Stern Guard with the Mark 7 helmet, he is not having his head squished down to fit into a different helmet. That could be a Primaris Marine. That is what a lot of people in the comments will be arguing. His head is not being deflated to fit into a different helmet. That is just a helmet that can fit him. Size doesn't matter. I'm sticking with that as a line. Armour aside, why would you put in enough organs to get up to Firstborn level, but not then go to Primaris level? So you would still have some tactical Marines that are Firstborn level organed. The Inductii are a precedent from 30k. In desperate times, you don't add all the organs, just enough to get them similar to Space Marine level. Then you put them in armour, which may then need to fit, and then you send them straight into battle. And there was a whole thing after the Horus Heresy of, oh, are the Inductii really Space Marines? Should we be calling them Space Marines? And yes, they are Space Marines. They were just missing a couple of the minor organs. Also, as making a Marine up to Primaris level is even more dangerous, it may not be worth the added risk for certain aspirants. Get them to Firstborn level and be reassured that this has been good enough for the last 12-ish millennium. My own chapter is mostly Firstborn after a beloved captain tried to cross the Rubicon Primaris and become a Primaris Marine, but he died in the process. Others had the same fate, so it was judged to be not worth it in these trying times. So the chapter remains and creates mostly Firstborn. Some of them use the Mark 10 armour, some of that Mark 10 armour are actually Primaris Marines. There is no longer a big in-game difference, unlike in 8th edition when the Firstborn had 1 wound and the Primaris Marines had 2 wounds. So what if you do want to play an army that is just purely Firstborn? You could indeed go with the Death Watch. They have specialised elite troops as a basic, with each of their veterans having at least a power sword, long vigil melee weapon, and a bolt gun with the special ammunition. Their best kill team is the Proteus kill team, a Firstborn kill team. And that is much more effective and has a higher toughness if you pick the right models than the Fortis kill team. And it would be nice if you could take an Infernus Marine in the Fortis kill team. That would make the free painting model worth it. The Grey Knights are an all Firstborn chapter, and it's expected to stay that way. And of the 2 new kits that are very much Firstborn looking, the Scouts and the Terminators, they may be able to use the Terminators, just swap out the heads. New models for you. And probably swap out the arms as well to have more Grey Knight style weapons. But if you really want to stick as Firstborn, have you heard the good word of Chaos? They accept all armor patterns. And you can have your chainsword, you can be really tough, but gooey, you can be extra Egyptian, you can be extra magic, you could just read a book and become extra magic but without the psychic keyword. You want to have Assault Marines on foot? Have Legionaries with chainswords. And maybe worship Khorne, that's an option as well. Alternatively, for all your Firstborn units, you can use the Legends rules. Legends rules can be used in any type of game. Open play, narrative crusade, competitive games that you play every day, and at the organizer's discretion, can be used in tournaments. But tournaments are the only level of the 4 ways to play that they are not recommended for, because the points are not going to be updated, and their balance isn't going to be changed at any point, unless we get some unit that is just so powerful as a Legends thing that it needs to be changed. A big reason that people don't use Legends in their everyday games is because they don't appear on the Warhammer app. There is no button to allow Legends or an option to choose to see Legends datasheets instead of the Codex or Index datasheets. So when building an army on the Warhammer app, you can't take Legends units. Third-party apps tend not to include Legends because it is a lot of extra work. Warpedia has a button to enable them for 9th edition, and the site is slowly adding 10th edition rules. But perhaps all this, I'm just clinging to the Firstborn, because they were the Marines I grew up with. I think of a Space Marine, and the Mark 7 helmet comes to mind. Newer players may hear the word Space Marine and think of the Mark X Tacticus helmet, which is based on the Mark IV helmet. I know I'm just delaying dealing with it emotionally, but from not appearing on shelves to going to Legends, the Marines I know, in the style I know, what I think of the iconic models of 40k, will be discontinued. That's gonna happen. But there's hope. Whenever Games Workshop has added more info and changes to Space Marines, they have stressed the retention of the Firstborn. And with the Horus Heresy scale and the marks of armor being produced, first Mark IV, then Mark VI, now a Mark III set, I'm confident that 40k will get eventually a true scale, as it's called, version of the tactical squad in Mark VII armor. Or maybe in Mark IX armor, which is a totally new one because they had Mark VIII errant armor, then nothing, then the Primaris Mark X armor in the various styles. And hopefully this Mark VII or Mark IX armor would have a mix of the older armor parts thrown in there as well. There are a lot of datasheets being removed or going to Legends, but that can mean that the range is incomplete. We need a Lieutenant model in Scout armor. Don't say that the officers of the 10th Company would just use Phobos armor. No, they would definitely get in Scout armor. We also need a more likely Lieutenant in Terminator armor, and hopefully they work out some kinks and issues, like it would be a problem if the new Librarian datasheet couldn't join Vanguard veterans, because that would really suck for the Firstborn Deathwatch. They can be joined by any unit that can join Vanguard veterans. If you want the Assault Intercessors with jump packs, but you don't want to have them tripping, just get Assault Intercessors. Easy to get secondhand because they were in the 9th edition introduction box, and they've appeared in the Imperium magazine, so there are a lot on eBay. Then, add some flappy bits to the backpack, and there you go. The new Assault Intercessors with jump packs cost a lot more. Almost double the regular Intercessors for the money that you are paying. It's £35 for 5 Assault Intercessors with jump packs, or £37.50 for 10 Assault Intercessors without jump packs. I think 3D printed jump packs may be the way to go.
Wait, don't be fooled! She's just a regular Malibu Stacy with a stupid cheap hat!
But she's got a new hat.
Unless, of course, you are buying these for the model itself because you really like them, and not because you feel that you need to have this unit in your army, then you are really going to need the discounts offered through my affiliates of Firestorm Games for UK and Europe and Gap Games for New Zealand and Australia. They are linked in the description. If you want to know more about the new Space Marine models and what I think more about Firstborn, there is a video exactly for that. My darlings and viewers, have a great day of 40k.